Smart homes are pretty cool. You can use them to automate your lights, your heating, different things, but pre-built solutions never really cut it for me. I mainly don't like that they always need to be connected to something, and when the service goes offline, well, good luck turning your light bulbs on and off. So I definitely want a smart home. It's not one that I bought, so like the true nerd I am, I just made my own. And I would like to give a little introduction about what I did to make it work and what's running so far, and just show off a few of the features. Now, first things first, let's show off a little bit of the actual electronics that's driving everything, and that's this cute little board. It's a small hexagon, about 6 centimeters, and I like to call it the Dragon Cookie just because of its compact size. How nice it is. But don't let the size fool you, it actually does almost everything for the smart home, at least everything that you would see directly. It's got the ESP32 as a core processor, so it can already do a lot. It's got a little bit of Wi-Fi, a little bit of Bluetooth, and it's got a whole bunch of sensors on there, as well as a little power supply, so you just feed it 12 volts or 24, one of both is perfectly fine. It's just going to run off of that. It's also got these MOSFET here to drive 4 LED channels, and I use that for the RGB warm white or cold white strip. If you want a room light, it's definitely got to be with a white channel just so the colors look nice. And the ESP is driving those at a nice 2 kilohertz, I think, with a 12-bit of color, so you got a lot of fidelity there, especially late in the evening. You want to be able to get them nice and dim, so that it doesn't disturb your eyes, stuff like that. And even without a server, even without something direct on, controlling this thing, the ESP already takes up a lot of the major functions that I want from a smart home. As you saw earlier in the video, it has this really nice daylight profile. It starts off with a slow fade in, and then goes to this cool 7,000 Kelvin, roughly blue throughout the morning, which tapers off in the evening to a very, very dark 2,000 Kelvin, 1,000 something Kelvin, and it goes very dim. And that's one of the main features that I definitely want from the smart home, just because it helps sleep rhythm and stuff like that. But you can also set the ESP to, display custom colors. You can hook it up to a smartphone app, and you can use MQTT to control the lights. So if you want to use it to do some fancy illumination, that's perfectly fine. Apart from that, it also has a ambient light sensor, and that thing serves 2 purposes. And the first one is to just turn the lights on and off. When it's bright enough, it'll turn the lights off. When it gets dim, it turns them on. And the second function for it is to control the brightness of the indicator lights, actually. The whole thing has this ring of LEDs, which are just there to give, a little status signal, a little bit of fanciness. I can't help myself, I just need to put lights on stuff, but I don't want those to be blinding in the evening when it's too dark, so the light sensor just makes sure that all the lights go off. And you could put this in your bedroom and you can sleep with it and at your ceiling, and it's not gonna be annoying or anything, it's not gonna be disturbing. And it also has a connection for a motion sensor, so hey, you walk in the room, lights go on, that sort of stuff. And basically that's led to the fact that I didn't have to touch a light switch in a couple of weeks, just because this board alone does everything for me, which is absolutely fantastic. One of the other sensors on there is a little air quality sensor, just so, it can shout at you, hey, you should open the window a little more, stuff like that. But that's not really in use right now, just because they're out of stock, so I wasn't able to fit one in. There's a BME breakout board on the side. Don't look at it, it's not too pretty. But there also is this little infrared receiver and an infrared LED. Those are going to be for later projects, because I have one planned which I call the tap badge. I have one planned which has this receiver and transmitter combo as well, and they're going to be able to use that as a locating beacon actually, so that if you have multiple of these boards and you walk around between rooms, the system's going to be able to know which person is where, just so that if you have different settings, like for example light settings, they can follow the user instead of stay in one room. So if I go into a room, the lights turn on according to my preferences, which would be really, really pretty. But the most important feature on here, of course, is the microphone and speaker. And any good smart home should have a speaker and microphone combo, just because that allows you to do some kind of voice control, a little bit of voice output. And in this case, I actually decided to, again, keep everything local. So the audio from the microphone, it's sent over via MQTT to a little server which is running Pocket Sphinx. You can install all of that yourself, and the audio is streamed back from that little server to the ESP. And although that's a little DIY, it actually works fairly well. So you can do, for example, this little thing here. Hi, Lexan. Say hello, please.
Of course. Hello, I am the Dragon's Toe.
And yes, of course, the Stargate sounds are quite necessary. But because I'm in control of most of the software, I was able to do a bit of extra stuff. For example, in parallel to the voice output, there's also a Telegram bot that I can use to configure things, which sends me messages when I'm not at home, so that I can receive the smart home messages. There's also the ability for me to add less conventional items, like this Stargate clock, which I built myself, and I hooked it up so that I can control it from the smart home as well. But don't worry, there's also useful things that it doesn't. It doesn't just do fancy, flashy bits. One of the technically most useful features that I added is, of course, the OTA, Over-The-Air Updating, so I can just press a button and the firmware gets updated over Wi-Fi, which is especially nice when I have more than one of these laying around, but I will hopefully never break them, because then I'll have to plug them all in myself, which would be annoying. But it also does useful things like keep a timer of my tea. It sends me little comfortable messages every now and then when I, do stuff. There's a Pomodoro timer, but it also keeps track of me when I'm jogging or doing sports, and when I come home it has a little bit of encouragement for me right there.
You did a total distance of 4.54 km in 27.1 minutes. That's an average of 10.1 km/h. You paused for 12.88 minutes. Keep it up. Welcome back home, that's it.
Since the codebase is written fairly flexibly, it's just a bit of Ruby with some magic sprinkled in, I really hope to see other people, as well as myself, improving and growing the whole thing with new and interesting features. It's not supposed to be a strict smart home, it's really supposed to be a fun playground for people to do stuff. If you want to contribute or follow along, there are links to the GitHub repository and the Hackaday page down below. This whole thing is free and open source as usual. And I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this little silly demonstration of what I hope to be a comfortable smart home for people to maybe get inspired with and start their own spin. With that, this was Xazan, and I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day.